Alright, today we're going to make us some canister Damascus. This will be using lock washers. I know it's not the best steel, for a blade or anything like that. But I'm going to give them a whirl, mainly because I want to see what kind of pattern it ends up with. And then we've got some powder 1084 steel from K&G Knife Supply. We're just going to be using the small canisters that I made up. I'll put a link in the video description below for you to check that out. These small canisters I made because we're going to do the hand hammering. But basically that's all we need to get started. So I'll take the washers, go ahead and get this filled up, and we'll be right back. Alright, I filled up the canister, and along the way I would take the orbital sander, and there's no paper or anything on it, just use it to vibrate the canister and get everything to settle down good and tight, that way that there's not as many voids in it. Next, we're going to fill her up with the powder. Do the vibrations with the powdered steel as well, because we want it to get sucked down in there and fill all the voids best I can. You could tap this with a hammer or a wrench or whatever. I'm just doing this because I think it'll do a bit better job in getting it to really get down into all the cracks and crevices. Alright, later in the process, as the canister filled up, I noticed that when I would use the sander, it would cause the washers to want to kind of float up out of it. So I would just hold my finger and put downward pressure on them while I vibrated, and it kept those from riding up, and it helped everything fill the voids. So now all the voids below are filled up, and I'm going to take a little bit more powdered steel. And I just want to fill this up so that whenever I put a cap on it, we won't have all these little voids and air pockets up here around these washers. Alright, it's topped off and ready to go. I just got to cut a piece of metal to fit down inside of here, weld it up, and then this will be ready to be put in the forge. Alright, I just cut a scrap piece of the same tubing that I used for the canisters off. Cut it and grinded it down to size where it fit inside the canister, and I'm just going to strike a weld around the outside. Alright, I got the cap welded on, and I went ahead and stuck a handle on it, and not because I'm so sure of my welding, but I'm just sure of possibility of bad luck. I'm gonna go ahead and drill a vent hole in this thing. If you're absolutely sure that your welds aren't airtight, this isn't necessary, but I'm going to do it just to be safe. Alright, the canister's in the forge. It's trying to get it up to temperature. I did notice one thing that I've never heard anybody mention. As you can see, there's sparks every once in a while. Not a lot, but some of that powdered steel is blowing up through that vent hole. I'm hoping it'll stop once the powdered steel around that kind of gets up to welding temperature and comes together. But it is blowing some powdered steel out of the hole. Hopefully it's not a huge deal, but we're going to let this come up to temperature and make sure that we've got the heat that we need all the way through to the core, and then see if we can get anything to weld up. Alright, it's probably impossible to see, but the billet is up to what looks to be welding temperature, nice and yellow orange. I'm going to go ahead and let this run for a few more minutes just to be sure that the internals, the very center, is as hot as it needs to be. And once it did heat up, the powder still blowing out of that vent hole was a non-issue. we got it up to temp, so we'll bring it over, give it some blows, one after another, overlap a little bit, spin it, and then back in.
Ow, my foot.
Alright, second heat, same thing. Go, overlap. We'll do a third just to make sure. Alright, final heat, same thing. We'll see how that goes. You can see internally still nice and hot. I think we stayed hot enough and had enough pressure to get everything where it needed to be. We'll let this cool down. We'll peel the can off, and that will tell us whether we were successful or we weren't. The billet's still nice and hot, but I'm going to go ahead and take just an angle grinder, and I'm going to grind one of these corners off and see if I can pry this off with a screwdriver, and I'll be back with you just quickly. Alright, screwdriver and grinder, some cutters, got it this far. You can see there, it looks like there's some cracks in it, which kind of don't surprise me. This is my first go, but we'll pull it the rest of the way out and see if those go all the way through, or you know, where they stand, and then we'll decide whether to press forward with this or to give up and start over. Alright, the worst of the cracks is right here where I went ahead and broke it in half. Second worst was back here, and you can see it expanded while I was trying to get the other to bust. For the most part, this is still hot, so bear with me. This one, there's some small cracks around the corners, but I think, well, like right there's one, but I don't think that they're really bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to try to make anything in particular out of this real quick. I'm just going to get it warmed up. I might put a little bit of borax on it where those cracks are, just to help everything come back as one piece. And I'll probably just hammer this out into a blank, and mainly just to see what kind of pattern we got with those. So I won't be forging, or I won't be filming the forging part of it, but nothing special. I'm just going to heat that up into a big orange square and pound it down into a flat orange piece of metal. But then we'll get that, we'll clean it up, and then we'll do a quick etch, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, the one piece that I had, it had, as you can see, little cracks and inclusions running all through it. You could probably flux and stack and weld and try to get all that to back together in one piece. I'm going to call it a loss on this one. I'm going to try it again. Same thing that I did before, and I think I'll vary either the strikes or the amount of strikes or something, and I'll get back with you on that. But anyways, I mean, this is still Damascus. It's really ugly Damascus, and it's non-structural. I wouldn't try to put it in a blade or anything like that, but we'll hit it with a grinder real quick and clean it up just a little bit, and then we'll throw it on we'll throw it in an etch just to just to see what kind of design we came up with. Just a really quick soak in etching. You can kind of see, at least right here, where the washer is shinier than the 1084 in and around it. One here as well. I don't know.
I'm going to give it another go. I've already got another can welded up. I'm going to just try it again, see how it turns out. I may be barking up the wrong tree. I have no idea what kind of metal those lock washers are, so that may come into play. They may have some type of coating that doesn't allow them to weld. I'm not sure. If anybody knows either of those, feel free to comment below. But like I said, I'm gonna give it one more go. I'm just gonna see if it was me. I'm gonna change up my technique a little bit. I think instead of hammering all the way down and then flipping it over and hammering all the way down, I'm gonna hit, flip, hit, turn it back, move up and hit. You know, to act more like they do when they're using a press. I'm going to compress both sides, then move up, compress both sides, move up. And that's just going to be with a hammer as well. A couple things I did learn. You know, the canister with the whiteout on the inside worked fantastic. You know, I grinded the corner off right here. Took a chisel, flipped that over. Ended up taking snips, cutting it off, and then you know, basically just peeling it like a banana, a big stubborn banana as it stands. But anyways, that technique works really well. So any advice you have for me, feel free to leave it. Any questions, I'll do my very best to answer. Like I said, this is my very first time. I'm going to call it a fail. I did learn some. I did get metal to stick together, but it's not quite what I was wanting. So, like I said, I'm going to give this another go, and then I'll try some more materials. Maybe it was the materials, maybe it was me. Who knows? But I'll do an update video here, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, whenever I get a chance to go ahead and try it one more time. Like I said, I've already got it made up. It's actually on the other side of that handle. I've already got the canister made up exactly how I made the other one, with the washers and the powdered steel and everything else. But keep an eye out. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll have somebody to laugh at the way I do things. Who knows? But anyways, you know, hit the like button, subscribe, and as always, if there's any suggestions for other things you want to see, just leave them.